Hello everybody and welcome back to another edition of Build Order Tutorials. This is going to be a Terran versus Terran build order, and it's going to be the factory expand into Banshee. So a bit of aggression, but also a bit of economy. If this is your first time watching the video, as always, there's going to be the audio edition of the build order, as well as the visual indication on the screen of the exact build order, plus the list down below. So as any Terran build order starts off with, start with a 14 depot. Get a 15 refinery. $16 barracks. And a 17 refinery. Put your SVs in the gas. Get a Reaper and your orbital immediately, followed shortly by your factory. Take 2 SCVs off each gas geyser, so there's only 1 on each now. And get your supply depot as well. Make sure to get your second Reaper. We'll be getting a total of 3 in this build. Go ahead and rally your supply depot SCV to the natural. Build your hellion out of the just finished factory. And build your 25 command center. Around this time, you're going to want to start putting your SCVs back into gas. Get a 3rd Reaper, a 2nd Hellion, the gas geysers, and a 30 supply depot. And a 31 starport. With your 2nd Hellion finished, put a tech lab on the factory. Build a reactor on the barracks. Make sure not to get supply blocked. Swap your factory and your starports. Produce a Banshee and cloak. Get your orbital at your natural. Get a tech lab on your factory and start your marine production. Get a cyclone from your factory. Sure to get a 2nd Banshee. If you're going to invest in cloak, you're usually going to invest into a 2nd Banshee. Get an engineering bay around this time as well, but that is dependent on what you've scouted with your Reapers. Around 5 minutes, get your third command center. And start your tank production now. Go ahead and take that tech lab off of the starport. Build your 2 gas geysers at your natural. And then continue macroing. Keep in mind that you're going to need additional barracks, as well as you need to start your stim and combat shields. Now let's go on to the build discussion. So the strengths of this build, it deals with Reaper cheese, which is, I know, something that a lot of people are going to be worried about. I mean, I worry about it all the time. With the 1 racks expand, you are vulnerable, especially to proxy Reaper. Even with your own 1 base build, it can still be tricky, so it helps deal with the Reaper cheese, but of course you're also going to have to rely a lot on your micro as well. It provides early game pressure and scouting, so of course you have the first Reaper that can go out, get some scouting, but then you have 2 more after that, plus the hellions. They're going to be scouting at the very least what your opponent is doing composition-wise, and you should be able to read something about that with that information. The follow-up is a decent macro game, actually. So the command center is obviously later than a 1 racks expand, but you saw the 3rd command center comes in at a pretty okay time, 5 minutes. So it's not so bad if you want to play a macro game afterwards. You probably will have to. The game shouldn't end with your Hellion Reaper push, but it might. The Banshee follow-up will also keep scouting and keep control over the game for you a little bit, so that you know exactly when your opponent's moving out or what their composition is. You'll see if it's mech or bio, and it can also be used in emergency in a defense. It can adapt to the opponent, so the cyclone that was built into this build order, not necessarily something that you have to get, but it is advised basically in TvT in general to get a cyclone. But the point is, you get an early engineering bay, you can get a Viking instead of a Banshee if you think they're going for faster Banshees, that type of stuff. And finally, it can work on any map. Most TvT build orders are any map, basically. So the weaknesses, a perfect 1 racks expand defense will leave you behind, so they deal with your Reapers fine, they deal with the Reaper Hellion push fine, they anticipate the Banshee follow-up and defend that as well. That will put you in a less well-off position as the person who's just been defending the entire time. Misreading or missing scouting can result in severe losses to opponent's Banshee, but also to an opponent's Liberator, or if you didn't see a tank push coming. And speaking of which, it can be difficult to hold against those cheesy tank pushes you might see on ladder, depending on I guess in any leagues, really. Even if the Grandmasters, they always do some weird stuff. But those the 1 base tank pushes, they come with a medevac. Those type of pushes are going to be difficult because you are relying on key light units, Reapers and Hellions. Until you get the Cyclone, which is also not something that is very sturdy, you're not going to feel very comfortable. And honestly, until you have your own Banshee, you're not going to be super well off defending against something that does take positional hold over you. So just try and do your best if it actually gets to your front door. And you might have to pull the SCDs. We'll have trouble against any air until the Cyclone as well. So again, that Cyclone really is the good catch-all defense in a TvT. It's kind of its only purpose in TvT right now, but it is a good one. So if they're going for a faster Banshee and you scout it, you might have to go for an early engineering bay and turrets, or you might just try and actually still get to the Cyclone first, but also keep in mind they have to save scans. Liberators also can't be dealt with. They might just camp your production for a bit while you wait for that Cyclone, rather. It's frustrating, but you do only have Reapers and Hellions, so it's not much to shoot up. So the suggested maps is, it's any. You can do this build on any map. You'll find in TvT, in general, the build orders that aren't something stupidly greedy, like a Command Center first and the 3cc, which doesn't really exist in TvT, can work on any map. The fact that you're going for a 1-base build on a large map doesn't actually affect you that much. Most of your units are relatively quick. Reaper, Hellions, medevacs, or they'd fly. So in the case of Banshees, Liberators, you can actually get over terrain really quickly. So That's the good news about TvT. You study TvT, you're going to learn 2 build orders, and you should be able to use most of them on any map. Granted, they aren't some, you know, funky tank push that relies on ledges or levels. Tips and tricks. So, without an SCV scout, which you may want to do if you've been losing against like proxy reapers lately, but in general you don't want to do if you're going for somewhat of a one-base build yourself. Waiting for an opponent's reaper with your own can be a safe play. That is to say that you keep your reaper or your second reaper or your, you know, all 3 reapers back at home until you know for sure what they're doing, or rather you know for sure they're not trying to cheese you. Of course, if you give them a lot of time and you don't see a Reaper, and you don't see 5 Reapers all of a sudden, then you can send your Reapers out for your own scouting after. But keeping them home initially might be the safer, more comfortable way to play for people who especially are not too confident in the TvT matchup. Make sure to scout opponent's unit composition or their base. So again, like, say that you do play it safe, eventually you're going to want to get a Reaper over there. You can sack 1 Reaper, but that's usually not suggested because you will want to push with the Reaper Hellion and see what you can do at their natural, should they have gotten it. And in that case, you're going to want to look at the CC timing of the natural, as well as the unit composition that they have to defend against your Reaper Hellion. So they could have the exact same unit composition, they could be a little bit later to the extra Reapers or extra Hellions, or they could be going for a very fast Banshee play, in which case they'll have very little on the ground. These are all things that you're going to want to make sure to read and then decide for yourself if you want to sack that Reaper further to understand exactly what they're doing. The potential to end games is there with this build, but don't over-dedicate. Again, like, you're going to push with 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions and see what you can do, and you might get a very lucky grenade or a good blast off with the Hellions, or maybe they just simply do not really have anything because they're teching while expanding, and you know, don't have the units in the correct position or something like that. But be careful about over-dedicating. These are very fragile units, so Reapers and Hellions can go down very, very quickly, and suddenly you'll find yourself with very little production following that up, except your Banshee, which might just be your saving grace. Be prepared to adapt your engineer bay timing, actually. Speaking of Banshees, if you see they're going for a Banshee, or you're paranoid they're going for a Banshee because you can't quite tell what they're doing, then you can get an earlier one. If you're confident they are not at all going for Banshees, you can actually hold off on it for some time. The Banshee follow-up can be traded out or delayed for a Viking Raven first for ultra safe play. So again, if you're not confident, if you just want to play a defensive game, but you also don't want to lose to Reaper cheese, then you can just go for the Viking Raven combo, and really, with the Cyclone, you shouldn't die to anything, including medevac drops, Liberators, Banshees. Tank pushers you might still have difficulty with, but even then, I think you'll have enough to actually deal with it, provided you use the units correctly and Mariko well. And finally, brought this up a little bit earlier, your Banshee can be key in defense, as well as offense, of course. You know, if you have not done any damage with the Reaper Hellion, and you are, you know, falling behind, you know they're going for their own greedier build, then the Banshee is, of course, key in harassment. Getting even 5 SCVs can be a big deal. But if they do one of those tank pushes, or they have some, or they get around you with like more Reapers and more Hellions, or something like that, that your ground army actually can't do well against, a Banshee can be absolutely critical. You can try and dodge out their scans, so they literally just cannot deal with the Banshee, or you can just try and sack it to kill like a tank. Getting rid of a tank if they're going for some type of tank push is obviously very, very good and probably worth it, but don't forget that the Banshee is in your repertoire of defenses, because you're probably going to rally that thing across the map, and then you might forget about it if you're, you know, at home busy defending against a surprise push. Don't forget about it. Bring it back home and use it. If you want to look at this build order in the context of pro gamers trying it out, then check out these links below. And that's that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel to see more tips and tricks, see more build order tutorials, any vlogs that I do. Basically, I'm trying to do a lot of content on YouTube, and any of your supports would be very helpful. So that's subscribing, commenting, liking, all great things. Provide feedback in the comments if you would like. Nice feedback, that is. And also, the offer is always up that if you have a build that you really want to learn and you just cannot find a replay, or you just, would like me to cover it more than trying to figure it out yourself, put it on the comments as well. I will gladly take a look at something that a lot of people would like to see and actually bump that up in the order of build orders that I'll cover. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next week.